Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Iranians mourn president and others as coffins head to Tehran. Indian Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar to attend President Raisi's funeral. Russia stuns the world yet again. Begins nuclear weapon drills near Ukraine border. Deadly clashes erupt in France over a constitutional reform allowing select residents to vote in provincial elections in New Caledonia. President Macron to visit the protest site. RBI remains optimistic about the Indian growth story. Predicts the first quarter growth close to 7.5%. As Iran is mourning the death of its president, crowds began to gather in Tehran on Wednesday ahead of the funeral of President Raisi and his companions who died in a helicopter crash near Azerbaijan border at the weekend. Mourners wore black and held photos of the late president as they walked through the streets of Tehran. Raisi's body was flown from Tabriz, the closest major city to the remote crash site, to Tehran airport before heading to the holy Shiite Muslim city of Qom. From there, it was returned to the capital to lie at Tehran's Grand Masala Mosque before being transferred to his hometown of Mashhad in eastern Iran for burial on Thursday. The death of the president came at a time of deepening crisis between the clerical leadership and society at large over issues from tightening social and political controls to economic hardship. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei performed prayers in Tehran on Wednesday ahead of the funeral of President Raisi and his companions. As we told you earlier also, mourners wore black and held photos of the late president as they took part in the prayers. The mortal remains of the two leaders will remain in the capital until Wednesday. The funeral ceremony will be held across the country before Raisi's mortal remains are buried in the northeastern city of Mashhad on Thursday. President Raisi and 7 others were killed when a helicopter they were traveling in crashed in a mountainous area of Iran on Sunday. Also, Iranian officials attended the funeral ceremony of the country's late president and other victims of the helicopter crash at Tehran's Grand Masala Mosque on Wednesday. Hamas official Ismail Haniyeh and Lebanon's Hezbollah deputy leader Sheikh Naim Qassem were seen among the mourners. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar departed for Tehran on Wednesday morning to attend the funeral of late Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, his Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian and other officials who were killed in the helicopter crash. The Vice President will represent India to pay condolences on the tragic demise of the Iranian President. All right, for more on this, DD India's Stuart Smith joins us live from Baghdad. Stuart, get us the latest on the funeral procession and also apprise us as to what happens next.
So the funeral procession is going on in the Iranian capital of Tehran as we speak. All of the major figures representing Iran's highest bodies were there, including the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and members of the Revolutionary Guard, members of the military, as well as, of course, citizens of Iran who wish to express their commiserations to the death of the president. There were also, around 40 high-ranking official delegations, according to Iranian state media, from around the world, including India, but also from Pakistan, Syria, Lebanon, here from Baghdad in Iraq, and as well as Arab nations, also from further afield, like Armenia. These people going to Tehran to pay their respects, but also to try and maintain contacts with such the sudden disappearance of a major figure in Iranian politics. Continuity and stability is one of the things that the government now in Iran says it's prioritizing to make sure people are aware that there will be no break in the workings of the government, that while the president is dead, the vice president has assumed responsibility, and already elections are being planned within the next 50 days. At the same time as the planning of the elections and the same time as this funeral taking place, an investigation is underway by the Iranian military to try to work out exactly what happened. While foggy weather and poor conditions for flying were the immediate cause, Iran is also looking into what extent sanctions by the United States made the helicopter inoperable, or at least not as good as it should have been for this flight. And the other thing that's ongoing now is debate about who will now replace the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, when he dies. He's 85 years old, and the candidate expected to take over was going to be the now deceased President Raisi. That wasn't confirmed, but that's what most analysts expected. With his death, there is now an open question and most likely political infighting among Iran's hardliners about who will be the successor candidate. Could it be Khamenei's son, but that would mean a move back towards hereditary rule in Iran, or could it be a new figure to take over when he dies, the most powerful job in Iran?
All right, Stuart, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. And from here, we turn focus to Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now, Russian forces have begun the first stage of nuclear exercises involving practical training in the preparation and use of non-strategic nuclear weapons in the areas bordering Ukraine. Russian President Putin ordered the exercises earlier this month. The drills involved missile forces in Russia's southern military district, which lies adjacent to Ukraine and also includes parts of Ukraine that Russia now controls. The first stage of the exercise involved Iskander and Kinzhal missiles. Russia's defense ministry said that the exercise is aimed at ensuring that units and equipment are ready for the combat use of non-strategic nuclear weapons to respond and unconditionally ensure the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Russian state.
Who didn't rule out the possibility of sending NATO troops to Ukraine. There were also statements coming from the UK politicians with regards to the possibility of the use of long-range UK weapons against the territories deeper inside Russia. All that, Moscow says, is absolutely unacceptable and leads to further escalation. And in response to that, Moscow says it has started to hold those tactical nuclear weapon drills. They are aimed at ensuring that the units and the equipment are ready for the combat use of those non-strategic nuclear weapons to respond to be able for Russia to actually preserve its territorial integrity and sovereignty. That's according to the official statements.
All right, Darshan, the drills are taking place in Russia's southern military district. This borders Ukraine and also includes parts of the country which Russia occupies. Help us understand the possible fallout of these drills and also the significance of this region where these drills are taking place.
Well, indeed, the drills are taking place in the southern military district, and at stage 1, we understand from the Russian Ministry of Defense that the combat units will be working to be able to service the Iskander and Kinzhal missiles and complexes. This is stage 1. In stage 2, that will also involve Belarus, there will be even more drills, and this is the first time that we understand that Belarusian armed forces will be taking part in these sort of drills, because just a year ago Russia located its tactical nuclear weapons on the territory of neighboring Belarus. Now, the southern military district was formed in 2010. It includes some parts of the northern Caucasus, some Russian Black Sea Fleet, the Caspian Flotilla, as well as the new parts of Russia, as they are described. So that is former parts of Ukraine, which Moscow says have been willingly joining the Russian Federation. So obviously, for the first time, drills are taking place of these tactical nuclear weapons in that part of the country. They also involve Belarus. So it is very serious in terms of the messaging that is coming from the Russian side with regards to the statements to the Western politicians. So Russia is reminding, analysts say, that it is a nuclear power, and the Western countries have to keep that in mind. Previously, we've heard a lot of nuclear saber rattling coming from the Russian officials as well as from the Western politicians, who have also been criticizing this type of behavior on the part of Moscow. But Moscow has always been reminding that it is impossible to defeat a nuclear power. A reminder that the conflict in Ukraine is in its third year. But as things stand now, Moscow doesn't say that it is willing to use this type of weapons. It says it has to be ready just in case Russia's territorial integrity and sovereignty are in jeopardy.
All right, Dasha, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. However, Russia has denied a U.S. assertion that Moscow has launched an anti-satellite weapon. According to news agencies, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said that Moscow opposed the deployment of weapons in orbit. Ryabkov said that Russia was still complying with quantitative restrictions on nuclear weapons set out by the New START treaty between Moscow and Washington. Let's get you a quick update on the Russian conflict with Ukraine. Ukrainian shelling killed a man and wounded another in Russia's Belgorod region. At least 7 were wounded in a Russian attack on the Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Russia used S-400 missiles and damaged a kindergarten and a private residence in the northeastern town of Shuhiv. Strikes targeting energy and transport infrastructure of the northeastern region of Ukraine have been intensified by Russia using drones and missiles. In a major boost to Ukraine in its conflict against Russia, the Swedish government has agreed with its support party on a framework for additional military support to Ukraine, totaling $7.01 billion over 3 years. The $7.01 billion will be equally divided over the 3 years, including the proposed addition. Sweden's total planned military and other support to Ukraine will amount to over 100 billion crowns. The military support under the new framework could include donations of defense equipment, financial contribution, and financial support for procurement of the defense gear. The framework may burden the public finances for several years and even after 2026. Let's get you an update on Israel-Hamas conflict now. Fighting has been raging around the far southern city of Rafah, the last area to face a ground operation. Fierce combat has also been reported again in the northern Jabalia area, where Hamas forces have regrouped. Israel said it has returned to North Gaza, where it had claimed to have dismantled Hamas months ago to prevent the terrorist group that controls Gaza from regrouping. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has suggested that he will work with lawmakers on potential sanctions against the International Criminal Court as its prosecutor seeks arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials. Blinken told a congressional hearing that he was committed to taking action against the profoundly wrong-headed decision. His comments came amid a Republican push to impose sanctions on ICC officials, which may see a vote as soon as this week. The United States is not a member of the court, but has backed previous prosecutions, including the ICC's arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin over Russia-Ukraine conflict. You're watching DD India News Hour. We are heading for a short break, but after the break, stay with us for the latest on Trump's hush money case, as closing arguments are set to take place next week. Vietnam Parliament elects top policeman To Lam as country's new president. Tornado ravages the Iowa state of US, killing multiple people and leaving at least a dozen injured.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Deadly violence has erupted in New Caledonia after the French government approved a constitutional amendment to allow residents who have lived in the territory for at least 10 years to vote in provincial elections. A drone footage showed ongoing clashes between law enforcement agencies and protesters in New Caledonia on Wednesday. 6 people have died and 280 rioters have been arrested till now in the protests. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron will visit New Caledonia to meet elected officials and local representatives for talks and reconstruction of the island. The protests were sparked by anger among indigenous Kanak people over constitutional reform approved in Paris that would change who is allowed to take part in the elections. Let's take a look at why tensions have exploded in New Caledonia. Now, Caledonia is on the boil, as we know, and as per Noumea Accord, voting in provincial elections is restricted to people prior to 1998. The aim is to give greater representation to the minorities, that is, the Kanaks. Now, Paris views the current electoral system as undemocratic. Constitutional amendment to include people residing for at least 10 years. French President Emmanuel Macron has invited representatives for talks. Now let's get you more on the amendment bill that is in the center of attention. The bill will allow in fact French residents to cast their votes. Those who have resided for over 10 years, they will be allowed to vote now. This is specifically for significance of pro-independence Kanaks and marginalization of their votes. All right, DD India's Ross Cullen joins us live from Paris to spell out more. Ross, good afternoon. Help us understand how grave is the situation at present?
Hello, we had 2 more schools and a car dealership that were set on fire Tuesday night, the latest violence to hit the island after more than a week of unrest. But the situation is starting to improve. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, due in the coming hours to be landing in New Caledonia for talks to meet representatives from both sides, pro-independence, anti-independence, and also to thank the security personnel. We have the police and the army deployed across the island to try to protect public buildings, to protect roads, access to the ports and the airport, for example. But these have been the most serious riots, the most serious unrest to hit the island in 30 years. But the tensions are starting to dial down slightly ahead of the expected arrival of the president, the interior minister and the defense minister.
All right, Ross, help us understand what is behind the deadly riots in New Caledonia. The new amendment bill, acquaint us with the root cause of this current crisis.
Well, the riots began before the votes on the contentious voting reform. We'll come to that in just a minute. Those riots began on Monday last week into Tuesday when the voting reform was being debated here in Paris by the central government, central MPs, and then they have spiraled since that. After Wednesday last week, 6 people have died, hundreds of people have been injured, hundreds of people have been arrested since these protests turned violent. We have seen rioting and looting across the island. The voting reform that was being debated that sparked these protests would see French people living on the island who have been living there for 10 years being given extended voting rights, which the indigenous Kanak population, native New Caledonians, do feel would impact or dilute their vote in local authority elections, because there is a local government with some 54 MPs that does have some devolved powers on the island, which is a French overseas territory. But for that reform to pass, you need to change the constitution. To change the constitution, you need 3/5 of all senators and all MPs combined to vote in favour. That is what local authorities in France's overseas territories, not just New Caledonia, are asking the president to delay, to postpone, saying the time is not right, the conditions are not right to push ahead with this reform.
All right, Ross, thank you for joining in with those inputs. And Vietnam's parliament elected police minister To Lam as the state president on Wednesday. Lam's election followed the appointment on Monday by Vietnam's National Assembly of its new chairman. Lam spent more than 4 decades in the Ministry of Public Security before becoming the police minister in 2016. As head of the ministry, Lam has been a crucial figure in a sweeping anti-graft campaign known as Blazing Furnace, play an essential role rooting out widespread corruption. The prosecution and the defense have both rested their case in Donald Trump's hush money trial, marking the beginning of the final stages of the historic case. Closing arguments are set to take place next Tuesday, and then the jury will go out for deliberation. The former president did not take the stand of his own defense, despite repeatedly saying that he would do so. He has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony charges. DD India's Sally Patterson gets us more from New York.
Well, the jury has been dismissed for now in this historic hush money trial in New York City. They've been told to come back next week when the fate of former President Donald Trump will be in their hands. On Tuesday, we saw the final witness take the stand. That was Robert Costello, a lawyer who at one time advised Michael Cohen, a key witness in this case. It was the second day of testimony from Costello, and on Monday he found himself at the receiving end of Judge Juan Merchan's scolding because the judge said he had rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath. Behavior, the judge said, was unacceptable. In fact, the judge told him, "I'd like to discuss proper decorum in my courtroom. You don't give me the side eye and you don't roll your eyes. Do you understand that?" Well, better behavior from that lawyer on Tuesday, who was the defense's final witness. Then the defense rested its case, just as the prosecution had done earlier this week. The defense only brought the prosecution brought 20. Those included Michael Cohen himself. He's the one who alleges that Donald Trump knew all about the $130,000 payment made to Stormy Daniels, an adult film star, ahead of the 2016 presidential election to keep quiet about an affair she said she had with the former president. Trump has always denied that ever took place. We also heard from Daniels herself. She talked the jury through, sometimes in quite graphic detail, a sexual encounter she said she had with him back in 2006 in a Lake Tahoe hotel room. Again, he denied that ever took place. Now the jury has to weigh up the arguments on both sides of this historic case. It's the first criminal trial against a US president in history. And then they'll decide unanimously which way they are going to lean. Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts. He continues to call this a witch hunt, politically motivated, a scam, a sham, being orchestrated by his political opponents to try and keep him off the campaign trail and inside a courtroom instead. In New York, I'm Sally Patterson, reporting for DD India.
The European Union has passed artificial intelligence. The AI Act will be rolled out in stages and could result in huge fine for companies that do not comply. DD India's Alex Cadia gets us more from Brussels.
Well, this is certainly a historic moment, a moment where the European Union and European governments are trying to keep up with this rapidly evolving technology. It is the first legislation of its kind globally when it comes to regulating AI technology. It will kick in, or at least the first phases of this legislation will kick in about a month's time. It is the first of its kind. It is also concerned about combating misinformation, combating other misuse of data by large AI models. So there will be obligations on transparency, on risk management, particularly for those high-risk AI systems. When it comes to governments, however, it also restricts their ability to use real-time biometric surveillance powered by AI. All of these things will be rolled out slowly, but nevertheless it is a historic landmark legislation, one that many experts think may have a knock-on effect around the world, because those tech companies, in trying to comply with the EU's AI Act, may change their processes around the world. And this act is also seen as a blueprint, as a starting draft for other countries like India, like China, the United States, who are trying to figure out the level of legislation they want for AI technology. Maybe they will take inspiration from the EU's AI Act. They can really show their teeth in the European Commission if they want to. They can fine companies up to 7% of global annual turnover for non-compliance of the AI Act. That would be quite an extreme case, but certainly that is the EU's way of showing that they mean business when it comes to this regulation. Now, there has been pushback from some tech companies saying that the burdens of this legislation, the liabilities, the costs of compliance will make it difficult, more difficult to invest in new technology, in research, in innovation, make it more difficult for European companies to compete with their US or Indian counterparts, for example. But certainly what is clear is that irrespective of how this rolls out in the next few months, it is a historic piece of legislation regulating AI in the European Union. Alex Cadier in Brussels reporting for DD India.
Take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. The Beach Boys songwriter Brian Wilson made a rare appearance at the premiere of the documentary The Beach Boys. Sitting in a wheelchair, Wilson greeted his fans. He is suffering from a major neurocognitive disorder. Wilson is known for tracks like Good Vibrations, Surfing USA and I Get Around. 930 music items from rock and roll history are set for auction on May 29th and 30th in New York, hosted by Julian's Auctions. The event will see John Lennon's 12-string hootenanny guitar, outfits worn by Michael Jackson, Prince's Yellow Cloud 3 guitar, including others, expecting to fetch around $4 to $5 million US. The 28-year-old American-French actor Timothée Chalamet's wax figure has been unveiled by Madame Tussauds in London. Known for his edgy red carpet style, the actor had featured in musical fantasy comedy film Wonka, based on Roald Dahl's novel. The figure will be open for public viewing from Friday. A tornado left severe destruction and damage in the Iowa state of US. A powerful storm ripped through Iowa on Tuesday, killing multiple people and leaving at least a dozen injured. The storm tore through the community, demolishing homes, businesses and infrastructure. The weather officials have issued tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm advisories for much of Iowa and several other Midwestern states on Tuesday, including parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. All right, let's get to the weather update. Back home, swathes of North India reel from severe heat wave conditions. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued a severe heat wave red alert for Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and Chandigarh. The maximum daytime temperature in these states is expected to surpass 47 degrees Celsius. The heat wave to severe heat wave conditions will persist over these regions for the next 5 days.
पिछले 24 घंटों में इस सीज़न में पहली बार राजस्थान में 47 डिग्री सेल्सियस अधिकतम तापमान क्रॉस किया है। हीट वेव के साथ साथ में सीवियर वार्म नाइट की कंडीशन भी फिलहाल राजस्थान में बनी हुई है। अगले 48 से 72 घंटों में राजस्थान के अधिकतर इलाकों में अधिकतम तापमान में और 1 से 2 डिग्री सेल्सियस की बढ़ोतरी होगी। यानी कि जिन इलाकों में फ़िलहाल तापमान 46 से 47 डिग्री सेल्सियस दर्ज हो रहा है, 23-24 मई तक आप देखेंगे कि उन इलाकों में तापमान 48 डिग्री सेल्सियस तक रिकॉर्ड होने की संभावना है।
In the southern part of India, 3 districts in Kerala state are under an extremely heavy rainfall warning, with IMD issuing a red alert. Weather officials on Wednesday said that the southwest monsoon is likely to set in over Kerala on 31st of May. Amid continuous rainfall in several parts of the state, emergency operations in all the districts are active due to possibility of landslides. Heavy rains also lashed Indian southern state of Tamil Nadu. The state had experienced rainfall over the past few days. Fairly light to moderate rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms, lightning and gusty winds is anticipated over Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, Karaikal, Kerala and Mahe, Lakshadweep and Karnataka. All right, DD India's correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us from Delhi. Akshay, we've just given a broad outline of the IMD's prediction of weather in certain regions of the country. You're there in Delhi. Let us get more from you. How has the IMD predicted weather in Delhi, in particular for the next coming days?
Well, when we talk about the temperature of the national capital, it's horrid to stay outside. In fact, the temperatures are rising to deadly levels. Where I'm standing right now, this is the central part of Delhi. The temperature right now is about 42 degrees Celsius. And this is not just about the 42 degrees Celsius temperature that is in fact risking the lives of people who are in fact coming out of their homes, who are going to their work, or students who have to attend their tuition classes and who have to get out of their homes to play as well. But it is also rather the factor that the feels like temperature right now is about 45 degrees Celsius. In fact, most of the people that I see around me that are in fact getting out of their homes are either using umbrellas, they're using all sort of measures to ensure that they stay protected from heat strokes, because that is very much a possibility in this temperature. And as far as the prediction of the Indian Meteorological Department is concerned, the temperature is likely to remain this for the next 3 to 4 days. There will be severe to highly severe heat wave that will continue to grip not just Delhi but the neighboring surrounding states as well, including Haryana, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, parts of Rajasthan. So we can say safely that several hundred millions of people, several hundred millions of Indians are going to live under these extreme weather conditions. That is also likely a fallout of the drastic climate change that we are seeing here in India. In fact, that is going to be a major concern, not just for the people who are getting out of their homes, but also the healthcare experts across the country.
All right, Akshay. Yes, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. And up next, we're heading for a short break on DD India News Hour. But after the break, stay with us to get the poll pulse from the nation as it readies for 6th phase of polling on 25th of May.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. A quick relook at the top stories we're tracking this hour. Iranians mourn president and others as coffins head to Tehran. Indian Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar to attend President Raisi's funeral. Russia stuns the world yet again, begins nuclear weapon drills near Ukraine border. Deadly clashes erupt in France over a constitutional reform allowing select residents to vote in provincial elections in New Caledonia. President Macron to visit the protest site. India's economy continues to rise, and this has also been reiterated by the Reserve Bank of India in its latest bulletin. Our next report spells out more details.
India is on the cusp of a long-awaited economic takeoff. This is what the Reserve Bank of India has said in its latest monthly bulletin. Early estimates also suggest that the GDP growth for first quarter of financial year 2024-2025 is likely to remain close to 7.5%. Not only this, India is expected to become a $5 trillion economy in the next 3 years. India's manufacturing activity hit a 16-year high this March as per a survey by S&P Global. The country's strides in the manufacturing sector was also highlighted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on social media site X. He was responding to a top executive's remark that almost 100% of mobile phones used in India are being manufactured locally.
The country and our company has come a very, very long way. Remembering the time when we imported almost all the mobile phones that were sold in the country. I think we were importing almost all the electronic products. Probably it's the first time in the history that a country has produced almost $100 billion worth of electronic products.
Global agencies have also taken note of India's economic rise. According to the International Monetary Fund, by 2027, India will become the world's third largest economy, surpassing Germany. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's talk more about this with our guest, Mr. Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, Senior Economic Journalist, is joining us. Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining in on DD India News Hour. Let us get first more understanding from you as to how do you read the RBI's prediction when it says that the GDP growth is expected around 7.1%. This is again 7.1% estimated by the Monetary Policy Committee in its statement on 5th of April.
That's right. I mean, and you would see a bit further revision. I would expect that the RBI naturally and with good reason is being cautious. And there's reason to be cautious because the RBI data came in before the monsoon numbers or the monsoon predictions had come in. Since we are expecting a very good monsoon this time, so I would expect an upward revision in those numbers again at the next Monetary Policy Committee meeting. And also you can see that the world supply chain bottlenecks have actually not worsened. So together I would expect the numbers to look better. Yeah.
All right, you are also optimistic, but can, for a layman, for a common person to understand this, help us, spell out more as to what are the particular sectors that would contribute more in these GDP estimates?
Let's start from the rural sector. One of the first things that you'll see is that the demand for NREGA work, that should come down. Because what happens is that sort of a demand typically rises when the economy is not doing well, when jobs are becoming relatively scarce. This year, we should expect a better condition. So I would expect that the demand for NREGA work at the rural sector should come down. And once that happens, then there's an interesting thing, because that means that the rural population, there's more moving to the urban areas. And secondly, you expect that that sort of a thing is only happening when they are more optimistic of the job scenario. So together, that provides a very good indication of what is going to happen in the economy. So good monsoon, good rural income together then pushes for larger opportunities in the urban areas also, because then the companies also start producing more, especially the FMCG and others. Overall, that gives a better thrust to the economy, which gets to be reflected in the better GDP numbers.
All right, sir. Now, the Indian economy has demonstrated resilience in the face of the current geopolitical headwinds that are being witnessed. How strongly is India poised when we talk of the global page?
Rather well. In fact, what you would expect is that as we just talked about, in fact, the things that we are talking about are the local factors, the domestic factors. Now, if the domestic factors themselves are strong, then that actually allows the economy to insulate itself from the external headwinds. The advantage that we have is that the global oil prices are steady. And one of the key reasons for that is India, as a key buyer of the demand of the oil market, has started to show its influence. It has taken some years to build up, but it's reached a remarkable position where the Indian appetite for fuel, both oil and natural gas, makes for a very major impact on the world economy. The prices that the suppliers can afford to climb up to. And as you can see, that despite all the disturbances that's happening, that of the Red Sea, that of the consequent, the continuing Russia-Ukraine war, but despite all that, prices have not gone beyond a particular range. But that is something which is actually a very impressive position to be and a very comfortable position to be, which means that going ahead, you don't expect the prices to worsen. So that gives a very good ballast to the economy. And following from that, you can expect that the world, the other prices, the global commodity prices, excepting those for renewable energy, those should also remain stable. So those are very strong support for the growth drivers in the Indian economy.
All right, so these were the external factors. When you talk of the challenges back home, now, a lot of thrust has been put on manufacturing, the manufacturing of cell phones completely in the country. Then there is this the prospects of the semiconductor industry. And also when we talk of self-reliance, when we talk of Atmanirbharta, India has been making strides in that direction. But then how far are we away from the $5 trillion economy ambition, target, and on the way to it, how do you predict the road ahead?
Yeah, these are, as the economy goes ahead, you find more and more targets being achieved, more and more numbers looking impressive. This June itself, you would get a good, robust inflow of foreign investment, basically dollars into the Indian economy. Basically because of the investment, because of the inclusion of India in the JP Morgan bond index. That's a big number. And that will have a substantial impact. Going ahead, when the new government comes in, you will expect that the rating agencies will also start upgrading many of the companies. So that should also start helping. You talked about the manufacturing, and the manufacturing sector obviously could do with lower prices, which mean lower interest rates, which means that if these money comes in, then their ability to source money for expansion becomes easier. So then they start looking at expanding their work. For a very long time, the Indian economy has depended on government expenditure, government capital expenditure to push the economy ahead. And that's been a very salutary thing. But now we would expect that the private sector to see that there is a very good reason for expansion. I mean, the initial film that you're showing about, clip that you're showing about the mobile manufacturing.
Yes.
Those are the sort of sectors where you would expect a larger movement, traction, electronic sector, EV sector. These are the sectors where one expects to see a very strong upsurge. Also sectors like the maritime sector, where there's a lot of interesting developments that are being planned. So these are the sectors where you would see lot of investor interest coming in. And obviously when they do so, then the downward, the linked sectors like steel or aluminium, they also see a fillip. Similarly for construction. Yes.
Right, so these were the sectors which will be playing a prominent and a pivotal role. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in with that outlook on DD India News app. And that was about the GDP numbers, but also there is good news coming in from the tourism sector. India has climbed to the 39th position in Travel and Tourism Development Index 2024. The US has topped the list among 119 countries evaluated this year, while India is ranked highest in South Asia and among the lower middle income economies. India was ranked 54th in the previously published index in 2021. Released by World Economic Forum, the index measures the set of factors and policies that enable the sustainable and resilient development of travel and tourism sector, which in turn contributes to development of the country. All right, up next we turn focus towards largest democratic election in India. Campaigning for the sixth phase of India's parliamentary elections gains momentum, with political parties ramping up their efforts across the country. BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is campaigning in Uttar Pradesh. Prime Minister held a public meeting in Basti. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister emphasized his unwavering vision for a developed Uttar Pradesh. The Prime Minister urged citizens to actively participate in the democratic process for betterment of the nation.
इन 5 चरणों ने ही देश में तीसरी बार मोदी सरकार पक्की कर दी है और इसके लिए आपको इधर उधर देखने की जरूरत नहीं है। आप इंडी अलायंस वालों के बयान देख लीजिए, हर कोई अलग अलग आंकड़ा बताता है।
Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah is in West Bengal. He started his campaign in Kanti in support of the party's candidate. Shah will later address public rallies in Ghatal, Purulia and Bankura districts of the state. Senior BJP leader and Union Minister Rajnath Singh held a public meeting in Haryana's Karnal. He will also address public rallies in Kaithal and Bhiwani. In order to garner support in the party's favour, opposition is also holding elections campaigning across the state to the voters. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi held public meeting in Mahendragarh district of Haryana. He also addressed a public rally in Sonipat district of the state. Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi is in fact addressed a public rally in Jharkhand's Goda. Later, she will also campaign in Ranchi. Amritpal Singh is joining us from Ambala, Haryana, on electioneering there. Good afternoon, Amrit. When we talk of the sixth phase of polling on May 25th, the BJP will be contesting in all the 10 seats, and also Congress will be fighting on 9 seats, and AAP is fighting on the lone seat of Kurukshetra. Help us understand the political landscape of Haryana, and also what are you picking up from the ground?
Well, the political landscape, Preeti, there are 10 seats in Haryana, and the BJP the last time around in 2019 had a clean sweep. They won on all 10 seats. The Congress had lost out, got a royal drubbing the last time around. Essentially, it is a contest between the BJP and the Congress, while the BJP's challenge is to try and retain their mandate that they got in 2019. The Congress is contesting for its revival. It's fighting for its revival. There are various issues that both parties are going out to people with. The BJP is primarily saying because they have a state government here, they have had a state government for 10 years now, for about 9.5 years now. They are saying that, there is a double engine growth government. The same BJP government in the centre and also in the state, and they've worked on development, and if they are voted back to power, they're showcasing during their campaigns Viksit Bharat, saying they'll bring more development to the state, while the Congress is essentially trying to capitalize on the anger or the discontent among the farming community, especially the Jat voter, because it's widely perceived that the farming community is not happy with the BJP won the 2020 farm laws, and then now seeking the legal guarantee on the minimum support price. So the Congress is promising that we will bring in a law if giving a guarantee on the MSP. Apart from then that, also there are other parties like the INLD and the JJP, that's the Janit Janta Party. Now that was a party that was a coalition partner of the BJP till some time back, but they broke away from the BJP after the farmers issue came up. So it is, though they make it a multi-cornered contest, but primarily the main contest seems between the BJP and the Congress. So that's what the political landscape looks like, Preeti.
All right, Amit, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. Let's turn focus to Odisha. The times, they are changing. The song by Bob Dylan is often considered as a reflection of the generation gap in the Americas of 1960s. But it, in a way, also aptly explains the political phenomena unraveling in the capital city of Odisha. Bhubaneswar is gearing up for an interesting Lok Sabha battle where the BJP, BJD and Congress are challenging each other. BJD candidate is son of a veteran Congress leader. While the son is campaigning in the city, father, a Congress MLA, has been expelled by the embarrassed party. Here's a report.
Manmath Rautre is a young leader fighting the Bhubaneswar Lok Sabha seat in the Indian state of Odisha as a Biju Janata Dal candidate. BJD is the ruling party in the state. As he sits in the makeshift office room in his residence, the remnants of a bygone era are hard to miss. Just atop the chair where he is meeting the workers and fine-tuning plans for yet another day of campaigning hangs a portrait of former Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. Wait, but Manmath is a BJD candidate. The mystery is solved once we meet his father, Suresh Rautre. Sura Rautre, as he is called in political circles, is a veteran Congress leader and sitting member of Legislative Assembly in Odisha. However, his more than 5-decade-long association with Congress snapped recently after he was expelled by the party for campaigning in favor of his son.
हम लोग कुछ 6 साल के लिए निकाल दिया कांग्रेस से, इसीलिए हम बिल्कुल संघ का जो सिंबल है उसको जिताने के लिए उद्यम करता है.
Perhaps he knew what was coming and decided not to enter electoral fray this time. But Congress's loss is BJD's gain. As he sits outside his bungalow in Bhubaneswar, his loads of experience seems to be directing the energy flow towards ensuring his son's success. On his part, Manmath says it was not easy to convince his father and the matter took many months of hard bargains.
I'm feeling very comfortable to work with BJD. Look forward to see Odisha people somewhere down the line, somewhere better perception, even in national level, national platform. I need that respect for the Odisha and Odisha people.
Suresh knows that his career in Congress is all but over, having been a bitter critic of Odisha CM Naveen Patnaik. For long, the son's political plunge, however, has made him heap praise on the CM and his policies. This house has seen Congress's banner fluttering atop for many generations. Now, with the younger generation handling the political reins, the flags and colours of the political ideology are witnessing a change for sure. Bhubaneswar seat is held by Aparajita Sarangi of the BJP.
When political legacy and blood ties meet, they often create interesting and strange circumstances in Indian democracy. Sometimes we see relatives fight each other in a no-holds-barred political slugfest, and sometimes blood ties flow thicker than the ideological vows. As India charts its future course in democracy and Generation Next stamps itself, we will continue to see these interesting changes in the Indian democratic setup. With camera person Sanjay Jaina, Ravi Dhiman, DD India in Bhubaneswar.
You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, in a big fight, Rajasthan Royals will take on in-form Royal Challengers Bengaluru in the eliminator today in Ahmedabad. Portugal names Euro squad as 39-year-old forward Cristiano Ronaldo all set to appear in a 6th European Championship.
Hype versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's turn focus to sports updates now. 2 times champions Kolkata Knight Riders pummeled Sunrisers Hyderabad by 8 wickets in the qualifier to waltz into the final of the Indian Premier League on Tuesday. Michal Stark produced a 3-wicket burst to rattle Hyderabad, who managed a below-par 159 before they were all out with 3 balls left in their innings. Kolkata romped home with 6.2 overs to spare after unbeaten half-centuries by Venkatesh Iyer and skipper Shreyas Iyer. Hyderabad will get another chance to make Sunday's final when they clash with winners of Wednesday's eliminator between Rajasthan Royals and Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Rajasthan Royals will take on in-form Royal Challengers Bengaluru in the eliminator today in Ahmedabad. Few weeks ago, a top 2 finish looked imminent for Rajasthan Royals as the side dominated the first half of the IPL group stage. But 4 defeats on a trot followed by abandonment of its last home fixture meant the Royals could eventually feature in the eliminator against Royal Challengers Bengaluru, which come on the back of 6 consecutive wins. Thus, it will be a clash of 2 teams with contrasting fortunes at the Narendra Modi Stadium. Portugal coach Roberto Martinez named his 26-man squad on Tuesday as 39-year-old forward Cristiano Ronaldo is all set to appear in his 6th European Championship. Veteran defender Pepe also made the cut into the squad. Ronaldo, who has scored in every Euro since his first appearance in 2004, has netted 14 goals in the finals. He also scored 10 times in the European qualifying match last year. Also, Ronaldo now plays for Saudi Pro League side Al Nassr, where he has scored 42 goals and provided 13 assists in all the competitions. However, Ronaldo will not be the oldest member of the squad, with Martinez also calling up Porto defender Pepe, who turned 41 this year. An event cherishing the value of national heritage of South Korea was held at a palace in Seoul. South Korean star-studded celebration included girl group New Jeans. They performed at 2024 Korea on stage. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from DD India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan these QR codes on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.
High